Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let me invite you into my askew little project. It is day one and evening one, and we are all very privileged to be alive, if just for a moment, suspended here. Yes, we are all very lovely and lovingly alive.
These were the opening remarks of Alexander Gog when he began the Magog Project, at the time the Gog Project, over 15 years ago. This proposal, the Gog Project number 7, was one of Gog's many efforts to procure funding for his theatrical visions. Suddenly, and without precedent, a government agency of secret derivation agreed to back one of Gog's plans. Out of them, number 7 was Gog's most bold and outrageous. This particular project outlined Gog locking himself in a theatrical space and remaining there, living with no outlet and no exposure to human beings for one entire year, except for 2-hour performances every night at 8, dark Mondays, Sunday matinee at 2. His only other connection to the outside world would come from a pair of tubes or chutes, one for incoming needs and one for evacuation. Gog's closest colleagues, Robert Mitchell, Darlene Goldman, and Cindy Dawson, Cindy with 2 Y's, were to monitor him and to manage the theatre where Gog would perform every night at 8 for 2 hours, dark Mondays, Sunday matinee at 2. Suddenly, horrible tragedy struck when Robert and Darlene, the artistic directors and managers of most of Gog's affairs, were struck down violently and unexpectedly in a Cirque du Soleil tumbling mishap. The pair were pierced and eviscerated by the legs of a trapeze artist and bird-like French-Indonesian woman known only as Chambois, and killed on contact. This left day-to-day operations of the Revelation Theatre, where Gog performed every night at 8 for 2 hours, dark Mondays, Sunday matinee at 2, under the distinctly and perhaps deliberately incompetent management of Gog's ex-girlfriend Cindy with 2 Y's. Cindy with 2 Y's claims to this day that she was merely attempting to follow Gog's admittedly somewhat cryptic instructions. Cindy with 2 Y's goes on to say, off the record and in no uncertain terms, that Gog was a poor sexual partner with no consistency or interest in her satisfaction. Be that as it may, there is speculation by civil rights authorities that Gog was left in the cell of his own creation for a cruel and unusual 15 times the established 1-year limit, and that during this time, Gog was exploited by the theatre, sold as slave labour to the highest bidder, possibly to pharmaceutical companies, sporting goods manufacturers, and most notably to our illustrious government, to be used in some kind of secret experimental capacity. Some connections have been made to the covert Misery Engine project, experiments that have been unreservedly denied by CIA officials. Whatever the cause and consequence, Gog was locked in a cage and forced to perform every night at 8 for 2 hours, dark Mondays, Sunday matinee at 2, with only the July 3rd edition of the Daily Telegraph delivered once a day, every day, and a diet consisting mostly of moon pies with banana flavouring. This went on for a full 15 years, until his recent subsequent death last April. Though extensive notes on the project were kept, most were burnt in a haste when the Revelation Theatre received an anonymous tip that the strong arm of Amnesty International, known as the Demons of Freedom, were about to raid the theatre facility. Only scant remains survive. Before the show officially begins, we would like to once again thank our government for their continued support and would assure them that we would do any amount of kowtowing or bootlicking to assure support in the future. We feel it necessary to make quite clear that no part of this representation is an attempt to undermine or indict the government in any way. And if everyone could please wear the required government armbands during this and any other theatrical production, that would be appreciated. If you have additional interest in Gog, his remains are still on display at the Revelation Theatre, every night at 8, dark Mondays, Sunday matinee at 2, pending trial. Tonight's performance is a representation of the scattered remaining notes that give the remarkable portrait of a mind of a caged man named Gog.